That sucks. Ready? We're going to do that again. All right. It's the inaugural week here at Nitrate Freak. And this is going to be our first top 10 video. We're going to do a lot of these because, let's face it, these are really popular and fun to watch. And debatable, the whole works. So today we're going to do my top 10 German silent films. Now, these are my choices. I don't expect everyone to agree with these. It's going to be divisive, but I think I got most of the classics in there. So, alright, so without further ado, let's start. Number 10, Waxworks by Paul Linney. This came out in 1924. Basic premise is a writer gets hired for a sideshow wax museum. He's hired to write the stories for the wax characters to bring in more business. The first two characters, Al Rashad and Ivan the Terrible, are both shown as... You basically visualize what he is writing, so it's kind of got a portmanteau feel. But the third story about Jack the Ripper, the actual waxwork figure comes alive and starts chasing him through the fair. So it's a really cool movie. It's right near the end of the big German Expressionist period, and got a lot of cool camera angles. It also has Conrad Veidt and Emil Jannings in it, and they're both pretty much the most popular actors, along with Werner Krauss, in all of German silent cinema. So, Waxworks, number 10. Number 9, The Golem, and How He Came Into the World. It's from 1920. This is the third Golem film, directed by Paul Wegener. The first two have since been lost. So this is the only one we have, and it's a prequel to the other two. But it is German Expressionism at its height. And it's a monster movie, so, I mean, how can you go wrong? You got Karl Freund doing the cinematography. You got all those weird, crazy angles, all the weird shadows, and the cityscapes are all very dreamlike, and it's well worth your time. Number 8, Variety from 1925. That was our channel's inaugural review, and well, it's one of the best movies in German silent cinema history. If you want a full review of it, check our video. But basically, it's a melodrama, love triangle, revenge story that's got a lot of great camera work, also by Karl Freund, and a lot of great acting, especially from Emil Jannings. Number 7, speaking of Emil Jannings, we can't forget about Faust from 1926. This is one of the coolest looking movies you will ever see. Put it on at a Halloween party without sound, and people will be drawn to the TV by the crazy cool images that you will see. The most important and spectacular to me is actually at the beginning of the film when you have the devil standing over the town, and it's unlike anything you've ever seen. And it probably has more smoke than most films of the time. It's kind of hard to tell what's going on because it's a feast for the eyes. So check it out, Faust by F.W. Murnau. It's the last German film he made before he went to America and made Sunrise, the very first Best Picture winner, along with Wings, but, Wings kind of... Number 6, Metropolis. Of course Metropolis was going to go on here, though I guess it's a little farther down than most people would imagine. Metropolis is probably one of two movies on here that most people have seen. It's like a silent film primer. You have to watch this movie. It's the first truly great sci-fi epic. There are images in this film that are as good as anything that was done 50 years later, all the way up to the advent of CG. There's just a lot of foreground miniatures, forced perspective, a lot of crazy large sets, huge extras. Everything was done in camera. You got one of the coolest robots, one of the best mad scientists. It also has a message. You can't beat it. It's a great movie. Metropolis, 1927, by the immortal Fritz Lang. Number 5, the other movie that everyone has probably seen, and probably more people have seen this one than have seen Metropolis, and that is, of course, Nosferatu, a movie that is still terrifying. Put that movie on at 3 a.m. in a cabin out in the woods and tell me you won't get terrified. I mean, it is as effective as any horror movie that's ever been made. And Max Schreck as the vampire, Where did they come up with that guy? What a face. What a face. I mean, it's Dracula. It's the story of Dracula, but it's just done with such visual flair. I mean, that scene in the boat when he rises from the casket, woo, it's effective. That is so effective. The way he walks, just everything about it. Him when he's on the coach, before you even see his face, you just see his eyes, and you can just tell he's got kind of a rat face instead of a bat. It's just cool. Also, F.W. Murnau, 1922. Number 4. I struggled with this because for a long time this was my favorite silent movie ever. It just sort of captured my imagination when I saw it the first time. It's called Dr. Mabusa the Gambler from 1920. Now, this movie is long. It is long. It's about 4 hours. It's actually 2 movies that were released. I think one was released earlier in the year and one was released later in the year. But it's all one long story, and it's just a crime epic. It's one of the best crime epics ever. It was Fritz Lang's first just important, truly important movie. He did 2 sequels after that. The Testament of Dr. Mabusa from 1933 is pretty good too, but that's not a silent film. This one is, and it's a classic. Dr. Mabusa the Gambler from 1920. Number 3, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Of course, Caligari's got to go on here. It was the granddaddy of them all, the great German expressionist movie. It is as weird as it gets, people. I mean, the set design on this movie is so bizarre, you just have to see it to believe it. And you don't even have to like silent movies to find this movie cool. And, the sleepwalker, the somnambulist, Cesare, as I've heard him called Cesare, I've heard him called Caesar. I like Cesare. I'm going to stick with Cesare. Played by Conrad Veidt. He's fantastic. Dr. Caligari, played by Werner Krauss, also fantastic. A lot of great faces in this movie. Just a lot of great faces. But that's, the earliest film on this list is from 1919, and it is the movie that started German Expressionism and really started the German cinema as we know it. Number 2 is a tie. I could not pick between the 2 great Louise Brooks movies, so I'm going to do them both. Pandora's Box and Diary of a Lost Girl, both directed by G.W. Pabst. Pandora's Box came first in 1928. Diary of a Lost Girl came in 1929. I tend to enjoy Diary of a Lost Girl a little bit more. I think the story is actually more sensational than Pandora's Box, even though Pandora's Box is more overt in its sexuality and the sheer bleakness of the story. I mean, that's a real rise and fall, whereas Diary of a Lost Girl is sort of like a fall and rise. But there's a lot of they're extremely adult movies for when they were made. In the 20s, they weren't tackling adult themes with such directness as G.W. Pabst did in these 2 movies. And also Louise Brooks is just to die for. Ravishing. The ultimate flapper girl. One smile from her and you're done. And finally, the number 1 movie, the greatest German silent film of all time, is 1924's The Last Laugh by F.W. Murnau, starring Emilia Annings. This movie is perfect. It's perfect. It is a beautiful movie. Just go see it. Go see it. It's short. It'll tear your heart out. It's visually stunning. And more than anything, it's one of the only silent films that I know of that doesn't have any title cards. You don't have to read. It tells the story so perfectly visually that it didn't have to give you a word till the very, very end. And there's a whole controversy about a tacked-on happy ending that, Murnau was forced to do. But you know what? It doesn't matter. So anyway, there it is. There are my top 10 German silent films. Comment. Tell me which ones I left out. Give me some anger, some frustration, or tell me you agree. It doesn't matter. we're here to discuss. That's what's important about this. Click the subscribe for more top 10 and review videos. I'm going to be just churning this stuff out because, well, let's face it, content matters. And silent films matter. And silent film preservation matters. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.